biggest challenge was actually people's understanding of the role of a community support officer, and people didn't really understand what they did and thought they were kind of second-class citizens really to regular police officers. A lot of people had that perception without actually meeting a community support officer, so because we hadn't recruited the number that we needed to, their experience of them was based on kind of what they were reading rather than what they were experiencing. The brief to Manning Gottlieb was twofold. One was to increase understanding of the role of a community support officer, and the second was to make sure that we actually recruited the right people into the role.
Through a bespoke questionnaire canvassing the attitudes and opinions of 1,000 people, we identified that poor awareness and understanding of the PCSO role were not actually the barriers to success for either the public or potential recruits. Our first finding was that awareness of PCSOs was relatively good. 2/3 of adults had heard of PCSOs. This figure remained high amongst 18 to 54s and C2D 18 to 54s, the audience seen as most likely to apply. We found that understanding of the role of a PCSO was actually fairly good. The least attributed real role, illustrated here in blue, scored 63%, and the most misattributed role, 17%, illustrated here in red. When we measured value, we found that this seemed to be the biggest obstacle to achieving our objectives. Whereas 90% of people thought that the role of a regular police officer was very important, the comparative figure for PCSOs was only 23%. It became clear that by fixing value, we could fix the long-term problem and not have to be faced with the same issues to overcome at the start of every recruitment campaign. So the question was, how could we improve value? Research proved that when the public came into contact with PCSOs, it created a positive impression. However, only 10% of the public had met one. Our solution, therefore, was to use communication to recreate this direct contact that would then go on to increase value. We would create virtual experiences that bring PCSOs and the community together.
To bring the public and the PCSOs together, we created a campaign of depth, breadth, frequency and proximity of experiences. At the heart of the plan was the creation of an ad-funded television programme following real-life PCSOs as they interacted with members of the public and the regular police force. The first of 6 episodes of Beat Life on the Street aired on ITV1 on Sunday, 29th October at 6 p.m. It was the first ever peak time AFP and was watched by an average of 2.8 million per episode. The programme gave us valuable, leverageable content. To humanise the PCSOs, we brought the stars of the show to life through PR coverage and TV listing titles in local newspapers. Local radio DJs went out onto the beat with the PCSOs, and the stars took part in live web chats on ITV.com after the shows. DVDs of the shows have been created for potential recruits, and the Home Office are currently investigating streaming it on their recruitment site. Advertising in national newspapers and social issue TV programming accelerated the contact to the 90% who hadn't previously had contact with a PCSO. FeatureLink took PCSO experiences into local communities, and outdoor was used in areas where recruitment needs were highest.
The first dip of tracking before the ad-funded programme recorded 58% campaign awareness, but it was Beat that truly put the value into PCSOs. Public value of PCSOs soared from an average of 28% before the campaign to 49% after the advertising to an enormous 62% amongst the people that had watched Beat. Likelihood to get information about becoming a PCSO increased from 8% amongst non-viewers to a staggering 30% amongst people that had watched the programme. Beat became the UK's biggest ever ad-funded programme with a cumulative reach of over 14 million people across the 6 episodes. In total, Beat delivered 30 ratings as 25-minute programmes for the equivalent cost of buying 100 ratings as 30-second spots. Using Nielsen methodology for putting value on ad-funded programmes, this equates to a media value of over £7 million, equivalent to £18 of return of every pound we spent on production. And even more value will come when the series is repeated on ITV1 this autumn.
I think for me, the biggest sign of success is that ITV have actually commissioned a second series of the programme. I think one of the key challenges we have is, are we using taxpayers' money effectively? We're absolutely sure that we did on this one. The return on investment was excellent, the media value that we generated was great, and I think in the coverage that we got, it was a really, really good investment. The campaign's been really successful in terms of increasing people's understanding of what the role is, getting the right recruits, but also it's been a great internal communication tool as well. So regular police officers who maybe haven't worked with these officers before now understand what they do, and people who are PCSOs are now very proud of what they do as well. So it's been really effective.